Caddis Maximus here. I'm going to be reviewing this DeWalt ball bearing easy flip open pocket knife. But before I get started on that, a couple of things. One is the Harbor Freight Bauer D-handle rotary hammer. Won't be having a teardown video on that. I was doing the teardown video, and the way the gear shift mechanism works, it's all spring loaded and it all just shot apart, and it was very difficult. The problem with the parts explosion is the way the pieces, they actually interlock together. I couldn't figure it out, and trying to force it together, all those gear shift pieces were sheet metal, and I ended up breaking one, and I was very frustrated, as frustrated as I'd been in a long time, and I just threw the whole thing in the dumpster. I'll just take the $65 loss. That thing, I never should have bought it in the first place. Secondly was a response to some nasty grams about how excited I was about the Bosch drilling the hole faster, even though it actually drilled it a second slower. This is the hole that the Bauer drilled. This is the hole that the Bosch drilled. The Bauer knocked out a huge old chunk from the bottom of the hole, more than a ½ inch thick. And so if we do something as simple as this, I'll just put my finger right there at the bottom of the hole. This thing, if I can get the camera to measure. Wow. Can't even see that. Let me zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Come on now. If we measure about 3/4 of an inch, and my finger sticking up in the hole just a tiny bit, and here almost 1 inch. So it drilled a hole that was 30% deeper and only took a second longer. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. This is the DeWalt Easy One-Handed Opening Ball Bearing Thrust Washer Flip Knife, and it actually works pretty well. And I'm actually pretty surprised that DeWalt didn't actually slather all over the packaging ball bearing, ball bearing. Actually, nowhere does it actually say ball bearing. It just says Easy One-Handed Opening. So obviously it's not going to be quite as easy as just a spring assist, but it's still pretty good. It's really surprising how little friction. The only friction that really exists is from the spring loading. There's a little detent in the liner lock, but if I just do the blade like that and just press the liner lock, it'll just fall open. There's very, very little friction in there. And how they do that, let me get a light here. Here we go. Let's see if we can see. You can see little brass rings on each side of the blade. Those are actually little tiny ball bearing carriages, and there's like 5 little microscopic ball bearings in there, and greatly reduces its friction. It's actually really easy just to flick it open. It's really surprising. As far as a non-spring assist, this would easily be just the least amount of friction. What I've noticed is a lot of thumb posts, it can be a little hard just to get the blade started, but on this one it's just so easy. It just glides right open. Just super low tension. And this thing was like $10. This Milwaukee Tonto is a little bit more expensive. I think it was like 14 bucks. And I think both of these knives, if they were kind of combined, if the Milwaukee had some ball bearings and a thicker liner like this DeWalt, I really would have liked it. But the Milwaukee is better. It has a, as we can see, a little bit thicker of a blade. It has better jimping. That's the not knurling, but just the serrations that give you a better grip. They are more aggressive, and they go all the way through the handle, and there isn't any here on the DeWalt. Also, you can reverse the belt clip on the Milwaukee, and you cannot do so on the DeWalt. The DeWalt has this little thing right here, and this little notch in the blade, and I have no idea what that is about. I can say that the DeWalt was actually pretty well oiled, although the actual black on the blade doesn't seem to be quite as high a quality as it is on the Milwaukee. And if we really look at the thumb studs, the thumb stud on the DeWalt just looks like a really standard kind of cheap knife thumb stud, where at least on the Milwaukee it's a custom little machine bit. So overall, I think this DeWalt is not a bad price, or not a bad knife for 10 bucks, but I think that's what it is a $10 knife. And I've been noticing on the shelves with all the DeWalt, Milwaukee, and Lenox pocket knives is basically, you know, Kershaw, Gerber, all those other companies, which are pretty much knife companies. These huge multi-billion-dollar tool corporations are basically saying, yep, we're the world's largest tool corporations, and we're just going to jump right into your market. And it's kind of unfortunate because they just are muscling their way right into the market. And since they have, you know, massive supply chains and everything. They can just they can just come out with knives and just push them out to thousands of retailers and instantly start taking away massive amounts of business from the other more established companies. The only caveat is that we don't know exactly who's making these knives. I'm sure that it isn't actually, Milwaukee, TTI, or Stanley Black & Decker that's physically manufacturing these. So it could be possible that, like Gerber or Kershaw or one of those other knife corporations, is actually manufacturing these custom for the big tool corporations. I just don't know. Anyway, it was just kind of a short review because I was frustrated with that rotary hammer, and decided to do a little bit of retail therapy and pick this up. And I think it's not a bad knife. It has like a nice polycarbonate shell. Because of the thick liner, it really doesn't have too much flex. I do like this steel lanyard loop right here, and it's nice and large. I do like that it has a finger switch. The big deal about the finger switches is when you're using these like a Tonto tip, where it advertises its ability to pierce, it gives you a little extra purchase, a little bit of extra finger grip there to prevent any possible situation where you may have sweaty hands or in an awkward situation where your hands may potentially slide forward on the knife. And so that really provides a big hook to really help you have a secure grip. I think the biggest criticism is it is a relatively straight handle, and for me, it's okay. But the issue with the straight handles is that your small finger, especially your pinky, just doesn't have a very good grip on it. And where you have more curved, such as this, it really feels like you have a solid grip with all your fingers. And the straight handle, just a little bit less. Just seems like you just have not quite as good a purchase on it. Anyway, I really like the thin little ball bearings that they have in there, and it makes me curious if you can order those bearings by themselves, because I'm sure you could get them to fit in a wide variety of pocket knives. And that would be pretty cool to upgrade a variety of knives with those little ball thrust bearings. I mean, if you had a spring assist with the ball bearings, it would just snap open. I think the biggest worry is how they'll hold up if they get wet, corroded, when they get pocket dust and grit in them, whether they're going to really start grinding and jamming up, but only time will tell. Anyway, I'm going to end the review there. I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.